The last of the guests had drifted away, carrying scraps of laughter down the quiet dirt path that led to the main road. The lanterns still glowed, tired but gentle, their warm halos trembling slightly under the midnight breeze. The wedding had ended beautifully, almost impossibly so, too beautifully, Deep thought. As if the night were holding something behind its back, James closed the wooden gate behind the final guest and leaned his forehead briefly against it, exhaling the kind of breath a man releases only after carrying joy and fear at once. Behind him, Deep gathered the scattered plates on the long wooden table, humming softly as Nhi slept inside, curled like a small kitten on the couch. For the first time in years, the house felt whole, full, complete, but the night was not done. Not yet. It started with a simple sound, one that didn't belong. A crunch. A weight shifting on gravel. Too slow to be an animal. Too deliberate to be the wind. James straightened. The lantern beside the gate flickered once, then steadied. From the kitchen window, Deep saw James turn his head sharply, alert in a way that tightened her own chest. She stepped out of the house quietly. James, he raised a hand gently, stay behind me. The air shifted. The garden, which had moments earlier been filled with the scent of lemongrass and leftover tea, suddenly felt colder. Another sound. A metallic clink. Like something hitting the side of the fence. Maybe it's the wind, Deep whispered. James didn't answer. He was listening. No, reading the dark. Then he saw it. A shadow. Just beyond the grapefruit tree, tall. Still. Watching. At first, James's mind told him it was his father again. Maybe overwhelmed, needing air, stepping out by himself, but no, this figure was broader. Shoulders stiff, head lowered, but not in regret, in calculation. Deep clutched James's arm. That's not your father. Before James could respond, the figure stepped forward just enough for the lanterns to reveal him. Mrs. Huyen, who was gathering leftover dishes, froze mid-movement. Oh my God, she whispered. The man's jacket was torn at one sleeve. His shoes were covered in dust, and on his cheek. A bruise, still purple, swollen. But it was his eyes that struck James hardest, dark, worn, and clouded with something that sat between desperation and warning. It was Mr. Tuan, James's uncle, his father's younger brother, a man who had disappeared from the family years earlier after borrowing money from the wrong people. A man who never showed up anywhere unless trouble followed him like a second shadow. James, Deep whispered, her voice thin, why is he here, Mr. Tuan lifted his hands, not in peace, but in surrender. James? Deep, his voice cracked. I didn't know where else to go. James moved Deep slightly behind him. His voice remained calm, but steel lined its edges. What happened, Mr.? Tuan laughed, a dry, broken sound. What always happens, nephew? I owe money. They want it, and they're coming. Deep's breath caught. When? James asked. Mr. Tuan looked over his shoulder into the dark road behind the house. They were behind me when I left town. I managed to lose them for a bit, but his voice faltered. They're not far. The words dropped like stones into the soft soil of the garden. Mrs. Huyen stepped closer, voice trembling. James. You need to send him away. This is your wedding night. You can't bring danger into this house. But Deep looked at the bruises, the dust, the fear etched deep into the man's skin. She had seen that look before, on people running from things bigger than themselves. He's family, she said quietly. James closed his eyes briefly. Family. That word already carried weight tonight, more than he had been prepared to face. First his father, now this. But the night wasn't giving him choices, it was giving him consequences. Inside, now, James said. They gathered in the living room. NHI slept on the couch, oblivious to the storm knocking on their door. Mr. Tuan sat heavily on a chair, his breath uneven. Deep handed him a glass of warm ginger water. His hands shook as he took it. Who is chasing you? James asked. Mr. Tuan hesitated. Then, a group out near the old industrial area. They call themselves the Blackgate People. They lend money fast, collect it even faster. James clenched his jaw, he knew the name. Anyone who grew up near the outskirts did. These people don't just ask nicely, he said. Mr. Tuan nodded. They want 30 million by tomorrow morning, or they'll come looking for whatever I value. They know I have a nephew. They know your wedding was tonight. Deep's heart dropped. So they know this address, she said. Mr. Tuan didn't answer. He didn't need to. James stood, pacing once, twice, then stopping by the window. The lanterns outside swayed violently, though there was no wind, or maybe there was. A different kind of wind. We can't stay passive, James said quietly. Deep stepped beside him. What are you thinking? That we need to move NHI and your mom to the neighbor's house. And we need to be ready if someone shows up. Deep grabbed his hand. James. It's our wedding night. I know, he whispered, and that's exactly why we protect it, Mrs. Huyen, having overheard, nodded firmly. We'll wake NHI. I'll take her to the neighbor's farm. They have dogs. Gate locks. Strong men. She paused, eyes softening as she looked at the couple. You two be careful. This house needs both of you. It happened just as Mrs. Huyen carried NHI past the threshold. A sound. Not from the garden. Not from the side path. But from the front gate. A knock. Slow. Deliberate. Too calm for a friend. Too confident for a stranger. James's stomach tightened. Deep's breath hitched. Mr. Tuan went pale. The knock came again. More insistent, as if the night itself were answering the fear inside the room. James stepped forward. Deep grabbed his wrist. No, she whispered, don't open it alone. He nodded once. Then he reached for the old wooden rod, the one he used for tightening fence beams, heavy and solid. They approached the gate together. The lantern above flickered violently, then stilled. James, a voice called from the other side. Not loud, not rushed, but chillingly familiar. A voice James had not expected. A voice far more dangerous than the men chasing Tuan. The voice of someone who knew him, who knew Deep, who wasn't supposed to be here tonight. Open the gate, the voice said, we need to talk. Now. James froze, every muscle locked. Every thought turned to ice, because he knew exactly who it was, and if that person had come tonight. Then the storm was bigger than a few desperate men. It was personal, deeply personal.